just a different video today. This is sort of in relation to my Mac project, but the next thing that I was looking at was to try and get some modern day equivalent of a SCSI drive, a hard drive that would be in the Mac. Now I've got my zip disk, as you've seen already. I just wanted to show you my thinking about what I'm doing for creating some kind of SCSI hard drive for it. Now, I found this project on GitHub, which was a hardware and software component that used a Raspberry Pi to become a SCSI drive, an external SCSI drive. And the repository had got the software and had got the hardware for it as well. The hardware is not just a Raspberry Pi. There's an interface card above which converts the Raspberry Pi GPIO, I think, into logic signals for a SCSI interface. So I decided to get the board done. Here it is. It's arrived. So I just downloaded the Gerber and pumped it into JLCPCB. It was there. It had all done for me, but it's slightly different packaging from previous ones that I've shown you. And that's because I got some of the board assembly done as well. Now, whenever you do stuff on JLPCB, you always get this little option to say, do you want to do PCBA as well, which is PCB assembly, I assume. And occasionally I push it and then get scared at the options. And it asks you for a bill of materials file, and it asks you for a pick and place file, which is what the computer uses. And it's always scared me a bit, but I noticed on the repository that it had those files, and those files were even marked with JLPCB. And when I looked at it, I realised that JLPCB was giving me a voucher as well for assembly. This is not sponsored, by the way. This is just talking about my experience. So anyway, I got 5 boards made up, and half of the board, one side of the board, has been pre-populated for me with lots of resistors. And let's have a look at that. Okay, so I've got 5 boards. So obviously I didn't design this PCB. I do like the little doggies on the back, but the back of the board doesn't have, you can only get it populated, I think, on one side. You might be able to get 2, but not in the really cheap option that I took. But yeah, so the back is just there. I've actually bought these chips, so I'm going to have to solder them on myself. But that's pretty all that there was on the back of the board, and maybe one of these through-hole sockets I'll need just for the GPIO. But this is the interesting side. So JLCPCB and their robots have put these surface mount components on there for me. I think there's maybe a diode there. There's a couple of LEDs. I think that's probably a big capacitor, but the real bit is all of these little resistors. Now, I don't even know how many resistors are. I mean, let's say there's 20 there and there's 20 that side. It might even be about 60 components on that board. Honestly, I would have gone mad soldering those. But they just did it for me, and these are just peanuts. They're, I think, can't remember exactly. I'll have a look, but it's almost like they're less than a penny each. They get through them in such a commodity. But I'm really happy with this. I mean, I don't know whether it works. I'm relying on the board designer's files. I'm not going to do my version of this. But I will later on, I might put it at the end of this video, I will have a go at soldering these other chips there, octal buffers or something like that. I had to buy them from Mouser. So I didn't have to wait for any of these, because these are standard standard components that JLPCB keep in stock. You can actually ask them to order components from elsewhere, but I didn't do that. And again, as I said, I'm not sure whether they do the B side of the board. But yeah, just imagine the work and the headache and the annoyance soldering those would have taken me. I mean, you're not me. You don't know how much stress this would have caused. But if you think about it, doing anything that small manually, it's going to be difficult. So let's have a go at doing this. I'm not going to try and plug this board in today and try it in this video. Maybe that's a video for another time if I can get it working. It's useful they've put these little dogs on here, because it makes sure that you get the... It's useful that they've put these little dogs on here, because it makes sure you get the orientation of the chip right. So these two, it's that way, and those two, the little doggies, the other way up. Wonder if the doggie's name is Octal. Right, let's have a go at this. So that's looking quite good then. Let's just get this sprayed off and cleaned off a little bit, and I think that's a success, soldering those chips on surface mount. My first real big run of ICs I've ever done with this, so I'm quite happy with the results. And just to check, nothing's fallen off the back, which is also a positive. So in a later video, I'll actually see whether this board works when I put the other connectors on. Hope you enjoyed this. Bye.